think you just have to learn how to learn. Yes, and Budge is an experience that we can't prepare for. We go into the briefing room, and it's me as a lieutenant, which is nothing at the Pentagon. Guy walks in and he goes, "Sec Death's on his way, 5 minutes." And I get the blue screen of death. They're all yawning, screaming at me, and through the crowd, I see my admiral, and he looks at me, I look at him, and I go, "It'll be okay." And he goes, "Okay," and he goes back to his notes.
You're diagnosed with cancer. 9/11 just happened, and we want to serve our country, but you're not able to. And you're in the Pentagon with all of this top brass, and your response was, it was fun.
Yeah. The delegate and elevate, right? We wouldn't be a $30 million company with 135 people if I didn't let go and let people do their jobs, right?
Hey, welcome to the Mastering the Military Transition series of the Prize Podcast. My name is PJ, and I'll be your host. The purpose of this podcast is to share the stories of those who have successfully transitioned out of the military so you can see the tips and tricks necessary to have a successful transition of your own. That way you don't have to stumble across some of the same things that myself and my team at Prize had to struggle with. At Prize, we believe in a world where all enjoy the freedom to grow. That's why we're developing the Prize app. If you'd like to learn more, please check out the prize.vet link in the show notes below.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
I appreciate you joining us today.
Yep.
Hey, fam. Welcome to the next installation here of the Mastering the Military Transition series of the Prize Podcast. Today, we have with us Joe Crandall. He's a Navy veteran who served a total of about 9 years, began as an electronic technician, went to the Naval Academy. After that, we'll dive into some of this here going forward, and then served as an assistant platoon commander and then the platoon commander of SEAL Team 5. Since getting out of the military, spent 10 years in medical healthcare sales and solutions, and then worked your way up from sales representative at Pfizer to the director of Northeast and Government Solutions of Get Well Network.
Yeah.
And then spent the last 13 years here at Greencastle, and starting as the director of client engagement solutions, and now the CEO and owner, which is pretty awesome. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, PJ.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
This is going to be a first here in that you're the first person I think I've had on that I actually haven't had a previous conversation with.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm actually kind of excited with. Let's see where this goes. Could be a good one, or it could go off the rails pretty quick.
Always.
So I'd love it if you could start us with, giving us a little bit of your journey of getting into the military and then setting the landscape of what that was like, and then we'll navigate from there.
Yeah, well, getting into the military was a little problematic just because I grew up in a very small town. My high school class had like 66 people in it.
Wow.
And I was not a good student. In fact, I was a horrible student and had a little bit of trouble behind me. And so wanted to do something to get out of a small town. Went down to Carson City and went to the recruiting station, walked in, and first guy there was the Air Force guy. He was kind of dorky, so I just kind of kept on walking. The Army guy, I think he was asleep at his desk, but I'm not sure. The Marine was just way too intense.
Yeah.
And the Navy guy was just standing there going, "Hey, what's up?" And before I knew it, I signed up for 8 years.
Wow. Just like that. Carson City, Nevada?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So is that where you're from?
I grew up in Incline Village, Nevada, which is a small town on the north shore of Lake Tahoe.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, Lake Tahoe is beautiful up there. Funny note, my family and I went out there for the first time, I think it was like 3 years ago. And I took my daughter and my kids along, there was like a stream that was by the campground that we were at.
Okay.
And we got attacked by mosquitoes. My daughter was like terrified after that. It was hilarious. Okay, so you joined up. Did you initially go in like thinking I'm going to be an electronic, technician?
No idea.
How did that work?
To be honest, I didn't have any clue. I just knew that if I didn't leave Incline, that I'd still probably be there, pumping gas or getting in trouble or something. So I flew across country to Orlando to go to boot camp back when they had it there. And after that, just kind of found that the way they taught the ratings, I did really well in the academic portion of the Navy training. And once I finally got to my unit at Little Creek, I was repairing radars and all sorts of stuff. And I just realized that I wanted to do something more than being enlisted. That's when I applied to the Naval Academy.
Oh, got it. So how did that work? I'm not actually familiar with that.
Yeah. So you go to your career counselor as an enlisted guy. I was an E4. And I walked in and I said, hey, I'd like to go to college. And he kind of laughed at me once he saw my transcripts. And especially since I put the Naval Academy down as an option and ROTC. And after a few conversations, he was kind of like, don't even bother. And that kind of emboldened me to be like, well, screw you. I'm gonna figure this out. And then fast forward after I submitted my packages and all that kind of stuff. About 6 months later, I got a knock on the door from the CO of the unit who was saying, I got accepted to the prep school.
Wow.
And I didn't know what that was. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I want the Naval Academy or nothing. And the commanding officer was just kind of like, oh, whatever. And some lieutenant pulled me aside and was like, Joe, well, he said, Petty Officer Crandall, go to the prep school. He must have been an Napster too, because he was like, you'll really enjoy it. And so I went.
Okay. And how was the prep school?
It was like a fifth year of high school. You had essentially three types of people there. You had football players that needed some academic help. You had some academics that needed a lot of physical help. And then you had all the fleet sailors. You had Marines, you had Coast Guard and Navy guys.
Interesting. And what did it do for you?
Well, you got a lot of friends when you go to the Naval Academy. Even if you didn't know them at prep school, you recognized them and had an instant bond. Showed me that I could do the academics. Yeah,
so for you specifically, it helped you understand that you could do the academics.
Yeah.
Was that something that you think you got out of that?
I could at least get a C in most of my classes.
Interesting. I'm curious. How do you think they went about doing that and like bringing that out of you?
I think you just have to learn how to learn. Yes, and that's what I tell my kids all the time. The most important thing I think coming out of high school and going into college is you have to know how you learn.
Right.
And as soon as you nail that, my roommate from the prep school knew how to learn.
Yeah.
And it just came easy for him. He ended up being 10th in the class from the Naval Academy.
Oh, wow.
And I was 10th from the bottom. So we kind of balanced things out. But, what do they call the last person that graduates from the Naval Academy?
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is just learning how to study and how to be a good student, because I'd never been exposed to any sort of good academic rigor before that.
Totally understand. And do you think that your roommate helps kind of pull that out of you, or?
No, I don't know. I don't think so, because we never really talked about that. I mean, he might have given me coaching tips on how to do this or that tactical stuff, but I don't remember anything specific.
Okay. I mean, I asked that. I mean, I'm sure heard, like you're the average of the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth to that, right? Especially like, rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah.
And I think that being around someone who has that sort of maybe standard isn't the right term, maybe it is, but like has that sort of know-how can help bring that out of some other people.
Yeah, I think so, maybe. Just because if he was studying, all right, maybe I'll study too.
Right.
Look at the books.
Yeah. So when I went to flight school, I was partying a lot. You know what I mean? Like if you weren't on the schedule, it's like, what else are you going to do? And if it wasn't for one of my friends at that time, who challenged us lovingly, but challenged us, they're like, hey, like let's get in the simulator and kind of made it fun.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have personally selected jets the way that I did.
Yeah.
And it was because of that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
And I think that there's a lot of power in that.
So that's the power of friends. I mean, they could take you down the good path or the bad path.
That's right. You pick and choose your crowd. So you went to the Naval Academy after that. How was that experience?
It was academically very tough. I mean, you're taking 21 credits, you're marching, you're getting up early, or you have to do sport, all these kind of things. So even the person that doesn't do well academically, I think, comes out of there with a new level of respect of like what it means to hustle.
Right.
But I started out because I was an electronics technician. I thought, well, this electronics stuff, I got it. So maybe I'll try electrical engineering.
Yeah.
And I think I had a point something my first semester. And so I switched to general engineering. And after that, it was just kind of just get through it. Right. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do after the Naval Academy. So the summer of my sophomore year, I kind of did, I guess you would say, some soul searching to figure out what I wanted to do.
Mm. And what was the outcome of that? Like,
It was process of elimination. I had all the things that I was eligible for, and I just crossed off a whole bunch of things. I crossed off Marines, I crossed off pilot, I crossed off subs, and by the time it was done, I had SEALs, EOD, and something else. And so well, I was like, all right, let me figure out what the SEAL stuff's about. I had exposed to them at Little Creek, and I knew a few other Napsters that wanted to be SEALs, but I didn't really know what it meant. And so at the Naval Academy, if you're not dedicated to becoming a SEAL, probably by the end of your sophomore year, you're not going to be even competitive. And so I went away, started working out. I was on ships a lot. At the Naval Academy, you get 3 months off in the summer. 2 of them are training blocks, and then one of them is a block of leave. Except I had to do summer school, all of my training blocks. So I would go back to the Naval Academy, just run and lift and swim, and became pretty competitive for that spot. But I missed it.
yeah. Okay. And how, I'm curious, how did you come about like that bit of a soul searching, crossing things off the list? What was your elimination process there? What did that look like?
No, it was just, I don't know. I couldn't, I probably have it written down. I wrote down a lot of things back then, but it was probably more just, I didn't want to be on a ship. I didn't want to fly. I definitely didn't want to be on a sub. So it was just kind of like, you know what, I can suck up 6 months of buds. I don't mind being cold and wet and sandy, and that's what ended up happening.
Being cold and wet and sandy. Yeah, I've read a few books. Haven't obviously gone through. Yeah, so all right. So fast forwarding to buds, like how did you get there, and then what was that experience like?
Yeah, so the Naval Academy do a process of interviews and physical tests, and it's based on grades and stuff. And they had 16 slots my year, and I was number 17. And so February, I found out I was going to the USS Fort McHenry out of Sasebo, Japan. So I didn't give up, but I was like, I got time. Before I could go and try to be a SEAL again, I would have to go get my surface warfare pin. And so it's about 2.5 years. So I was like, all right, I'll start eating donuts again and not lifting and not running. And so from February of my senior year to May, which we graduated in May, I didn't do anything. And I probably gained like 30 pounds. And 5 days before graduation, a Marine colonel walked into a room, and he's like, Midshipman Crandall. And I'm like, here, sir. He like looks at me, and he kind of just was like, you still want to be a SEAL? And I was like, yes, sir. He goes, well, spot opened up. And he goes, thank goodness you'll come back to the Naval Academy for the all summer, and then you'll go to buds like in the fall. And I was like, okay. So in my head, I got 3-4 months to get back into shape, which was not a problem. And so I take my month off. I go home, or I come up to Jersey to hang out with my girlfriend, and I go back to the Naval Academy with all a huge auditorium with a bunch of ensigns and first lieutenants, second lieutenants, and they're like looking up my name, and they can't find my name on this list that I'm supposed to be there. So the whole thing clears out, like hundreds of people, it clears out. I'm the last one, and they walk up, they go, oh, we found you. And I'm like, oh, okay, where am I going? He goes, you were supposed to be in Coronado 3 days ago. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you have 4 more days of leave to get there before you get in trouble. So I packed everything up, and I drove to Coronado.
Wow. Okay.
Completely out of shape. Oh, God. And completely unprepared. Yeah. Just showed up, and they're like, here I am.
How did that go, being out of shape and unprepared?
Well, if you've ever seen the Pillsbury Doughboy, that was kind of what I showed up as. And if you've ever met a SEAL instructor, they are the most sadistic people on the planet. Even if they're the nicest people, and they're in that role, they're sadistic. And so I showed up to Bud's, and they had an office, and like it was kind of like a corridor, and you had little cubicles, and you ring the bell to get their attention. And one of the petty officers puts his head out like, what the hell's going on? And he looks at me, and he just goes, holy shit. And I was just like, oh, here we go. And I was in my whites, all polished, ready to go. And they all came out, and they're like, yeah. And they're like, Ensign Crandall, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm here for buds. And they're like, you're 4 weeks early. And I'm like, typical military. So I was there alone for 4 weeks. just getting my ass beat for 4 weeks by these guys. And then the class started to show up, and then by then it was, old hat. I was like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, actually, so that was probably a blessing in disguise, wasn't it? Getting early.
Yeah, well, that and so by the time we classed up, we had 269 people. And because I was the first one, I was the class leader, not because of any other reason than I was the most senior ranking person. And so the next person from the Naval Academy that is a higher rank than me in the class was supposed to take over. And they were just like, yeah, you got it. And I'm like, all right, stupid. It's stupid me. Like, okay. And so by the time we actually started Buds, I was still the class leader and just kind of, doing my thing.
Yeah. And you didn't have any trouble getting through, like, at that point, or like you went straight through. Mind you, like, my only experience with this, like, reading books, right? Like General McCraven or like David Goggins, like reading those sorts of stories. I am completely naive to this sort of experience. What was your experience there?
Buds is an experience that we can't prepare for. It's like, so when you kick her in the nuts, yeah, are you gonna practice getting kicked in the nuts, or are you just gonna let it happen? And so I think being the class leader was a blessing also, because I was so worried about the 269 people that I didn't really worry about myself. And then the whole class started to whittle down. I think by the time we hit Hell Week, which was, I think, the third week for us, we were down to in the hundreds. And by the end of Hell Week, we're in the, I think in the 40s or 50s. So we had tried it a lot of people very quickly. And so once you get through Hell Week, it's kind of like that's your group. You might have some people roll out because of injuries or roll in because they were injured in another class. But out of the 269, we only graduated originally 21 of those people.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And so out of Buds, you then go directly to SEAL Team 5, or how does that work?
You go to an officer, like a month-long training of officer stuff for SEALs, and then you go to airborne school in
cool.
Fort Benning, and then you go to a couple other classes, and then you go to your team, and you wait for a platoon to start up, and then you join a platoon.
Right. Okay. And you were at SEAL Team 5 at that point, showing up. Like, who was it there that helped shape you from that point? Because, I mean, I understand the training portion of it. Like, we get good amounts of, I don't know, shaping and molding from the training. But I don't know, at least it's my firm belief that when you get to the unit, you start being in the practice, that you get a mentor or something like that, someone who really helps actually make you who you are.
Yeah, well, we covered this in several other interviews that I've done lately. I've never latched onto a single individual mentor. It's not my style. But Jeff Williams was the platoon commander of my first platoon, and he taught me a lot. Mm-hmm. And so did the chief and Bruce Schleman and the other senior enlisted folks. As a SEAL, if you didn't listen and treat the senior enlisted folks, all the enlisted guys, as equals, if not more important because of their knowledge, then you got your ass beat pretty good. And so you learn to pick and choose what to learn from different people. And
right.
Even when you get into the SEALs, there's still stratification of bad SEAls and good SEAls, and so sure. So, but you can learn from the whole gamut, and so you just pick up bits and pieces. Like one of the things I picked up from Jeff was write everything down. So for 25 years now, I've been writing everything down. I have notebooks all over of everything. There's some gaps in it, but you want to know how to do a SEAL platoon marching formation with, for certain types of contacts, I have it written down in my notebook somewhere.
So he taught you how to learn.
Yeah. Well, also just his big thing, and it saved my ass a few times, is documentation.
Yeah.
He who documents wins.
Interesting. Okay. And is that something you've carried through? Like,
oh yeah. Yeah. Anytime there's a negative situation, first thing I say is document everything.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. So at this point, you're in your career, you're full blown, you're also young, and probably impressionable, and like, walk me through a bit of your time as a SEAL, and then I'd love to dovetail into like the transition out, because I know that you got out not necessarily on your own terms.
Yeah. So you're at the mercy of the Navy in a lot of ways. And the Navy was actually going through a transition. The SEALs were going through a transition at that point in time. They were going from where at SEAL Team 5, you would have essentially 4 cycles. 2 platoons are deployed, 2 platoons are getting ready to deploy, 2 platoons are getting started, 2 platoons just came back. And when I was getting out, they were transitioning to the troop model where the whole team would deploy at once. And so there's a little bit of that going on. And then it was just nothing was going on. I mean, 9/11 hadn't happened. Your operational career pretty much ended after your platoon commander. So I had already kind of said, I've done my thing and wanted to get out. And then we were deployed and 9/11 happened. Still nothing major happened with us because we were I think at that time we were in Okinawa. And, they were still trying to figure out the response and that kind of stuff. And they already had platoons in that operating area. And so we just kind of sat on our asses at Okinawa for a while. And then, what was it, February or January of 2002, I got diagnosed with colon cancer. And that was kind of the end of it for me. Even though I didn't get out until, well, it was 2001. It was late 2001. So even though I didn't get out for a little bit of time, I came back to Bethesda at the time and got treatment and just kind of worked at the Pentagon while I recovered.
Right. And how was that for you? Like being diagnosed, I'm assuming, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but like I'm assuming that like you're thinking your career is over at that point. Maybe you were already mentally prepared for that, but like walking through that.
Well, once 9/11 happened, you realize that it's the big show, right? That
right.
You're going to actually be able to go do your warcraft that you've been practicing for 5-6 years. And so I was getting prepared to potentially have a very tough conversation with my wife about staying in. And then again, I got diagnosed with cancer and they pretty much said, yeah, you can stay in, but you'll push a desk. And so like, I'm going to push a desk. I might as well make more money. And so that kind of did that. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, I was working at the Pentagon. I was seeing a lot of the intel firsthand, seeing just the amazing things all the different units were doing. One of my favorite stories is it's my combat story, I call it, is the 2 leaders of the SEAL units of the Dev Group and regular SEALs were coming in to brief President Bush, and they handed me their laptops with their passwords and said, everything you need's in here. I just make the presentation because they needed to brief the Secretary of Defense. And so I had like 3 days of just perusing laptops, and I saw like just a lot of things that at the time you couldn't talk about, and Bronze Star, Silver Stars. It was just amazing some of the shit these guys were doing. And so I pulled together the huge PowerPoint for the Secretary of the Defense, and he got to think this is 2002, so there's not. I mean, a 30 meg file is huge, right? It's a crashing computer, so my computer was crashing all the time, and I finally got it to work, and we go into the briefing room, and it's me as a lieutenant, which is nothing at the Pentagon. I mean, I think they look at the janitor better, and a room full of admirals and generals. So there's probably 17, 18, like 3 stars and above. I mean, it was just, and then my SEAL admiral was sitting there, Admiral Olson, and guy walks in and he goes, "Sec Def's on his way, 5 minutes." And then I get the blue screen to death. And every single admiral in that room jumped up and was just freaking the fuck out. Except my admiral, right? So they're all coming over me. They're all yawning, screaming at me. And through the crowd, I see my admiral, and he looks at me. I look at him, and I go, "It'll be okay." And he goes, "Okay." And he goes back to his notes. And I'm like, "Admiral," I'm like, "Go down the hall and give me a left-handed smoke shifter." I'm just telling him to just get him out of my way. I'm just telling him to go do stuff. And so I'm trying to do everything that I'm supposed to be doing. 30 seconds, he's on his way. And I'm like, fuck, this is to end my career at the Pentagon, screwing it up for the entire Navy SEALs was not going to be good. And he walked in, PowerPoint came up, Admiral did the presentation. It was flawless. And after it was over, they were going to do a debrief or something. So I closed my laptop up, went back to my office, and I'd actually taken over Admiral Olson's office to get all this together. And I'm in there, just packing shit up. And he comes in and he's like, Lieutenant Crandall? And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting out of your way, sir. Don't worry, sorry, blah, blah. And he like paused for a second. And he handed me a challenge coin or that he probably hands out to only combat veterans and people that have done like true shit. And I was just like, awesome. It was kind of like my moment of like, all right, I can remain calm when I got 19 admirals yelling at me.
Right.
But yeah, it was just a funny little story. But
well, okay. So backing up, you said something that for a second there threw me off guard, and I want to touch on it a little bit because you're diagnosed with cancer. 9/11 just happened, and you're seeing like we all at this point we join because on some level we want to prove our merit. We want to go out and we want to serve our country, but you're not able to, and you're in the Pentagon with all of this top brass. And your response was, it was fun.
Yeah.
Help me understand how that is the emotion that you pull out of that. I'm not judging. I think it's cool. Help me understand that.
Well, you got to make things fun.
I agree.
But it's one of our core values here at Greencastle. But would I say it was fun? In 2002, probably not.
Right.
I probably hated it there. The Pentagon's not a place for a lieutenant. It's just you are nobody.
Right.
I could walk. I was invisible, which was just fine. And the only thing, to be honest, that really made me stand out was the trident on my uniform.
Right.
And people would notice that before anything else. But yeah, I think going through BUDS and some of the things we did as a platoon, you latch on to the dark humor and this really sucks, but it's fun because you're doing something that is unusual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As much as it wasn't anything compared to what my counterparts were going through overseas, being in that room with all that stress was kind of like, all right, I get a chance to shine here and, do my part. And, that's how I looked at it.
I love that. I love that. I'm a big believer in we don't experience life, we experience the life we focus on.
Right.
And here you're showing us that you could have focused on just the shittiness of the situation,
right,
of not getting to do what you've been trained to do, of being in that, environment with, your bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah.
And your response is, it was fun. I think that's awesome. I think that a lot of us could learn a lot from just that statement in itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the point where now it's like, I'm sure you've gone through the whole like med board and all of that.
Actually, no. They considered it cured once they did the surgery.
Interesting.
And so I had to have a lower anterior resection. They took out like 18 inches of my colon. And once they figured, the cancer hadn't reoccurred in a little shorter period of time, they were like, all right, yeah,
okay, yeah. So did you stay at the Pentagon then? Is that how you?
Well, I was also getting, I was injured in a parachuting accident a few years before, so I was also getting both my ankles reconstructed. So
okay,
I had in 1 year I had colon cancer surgery, and then that was in January, and then May I had my left ankle reconstructed, and then in August I had my right ankle reconstructed. So not only I'm a lieutenant walking around the Pentagon, now I'm on crutches most of the time. So,
and it was fun. Okay, so how was it then that you wound up getting out? Like, did you stay at the Pentagon then for a bit? And
yeah, I stayed at the Pentagon for probably about a year. I was still attached to Team 5, but I was TAD to the Pentagon. And it was tough getting out just because you're ripped out of the platoon quickly. Like it was Friday afternoon. The doctor calls me and says, "Hey, listen, Joe, we gotta we got to, you got to come into the office and talk about your biopsy results. And I was like, listen, doc, I'm going to either, we were getting ready to go to Thailand at the time. I'm like, am I going to Thailand or am I going home? And he's like, I can't tell you that. I'm like, I don't have time for this. And he's like, you're going home. So then, yeah, the platoon got on a plane to Thailand and I got on a plane to San Diego, and I probably didn't see or hear from them for, probably a year. And it just, because then by then everything was kicking off and people were doing their own thing. Right. Platoons were getting cannibalized to fill combat ready platoons. And so there's no ceremony. There was no, hey, let's get around and have a beer and that kind of stuff. So it was just, you just a ghost at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then, so you get out and you go back to Nevada?
No, we got out and then came back to South Jersey.
Okay, because that's where your girlfriend, I'm guessing, now wife. Okay, got it. So how was that process for you? Because you said something there too, which I think is interesting, and I can relate to this too, of like, you got out and you were a bit of a ghost because everyone was off doing their own thing. You at this point are like, he's hurt, he's gone, like, yeah, he's going home. How did that affect you?
Well, I don't know if immediately it affected me, but I didn't maintain any contact with anybody, even within the veteran community when I got out. So I didn't really start getting back involved with anything for probably 20 years.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I didn't. I mean, not until I really hit Greencastle did I start getting back involved with the veteran community, and I just always felt, that. Things in the SEAL side moved on without me, and
right,
I was kind of okay with that. But it was still, I mean, you see all your classmates and everything, like just doing amazing things.
Right.
Like the first 3 admirals out of my graduating Naval Academy class were SEALs.
Wow,
which was never happened before.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And okay, so you spent about 20 years. Would you say it was more? And tell me if I'm pushing, but like, was it kind of sweeping it under the rug? Was it avoidance? Was it just like,
No, I don't think I was working on my career. I was just working on a career. Yeah. And to be honest, I probably didn't even know that all that stuff existed, just because I wasn't in a veteran-centric organization.
Got it.
I joined Pfizer. I was selling drugs in North Philly. And, that was the most mind-numbing job that I had ever. And I needed to get out of it. And so then I joined Get Well Network selling software for a while. And then had a falling out with kind of the leadership there, with some of the new sales leadership they brought in. Got recruited to work at GE. Did horrible there. I actually got fired just because it was such a transactional sale. It would be like, hey, what do I got to do? Do I got to call my manager to get you into this cup? This is your cup, and I just couldn't. That wasn't my style. And so I ended up getting fired from there by a Marine, which was kind of funny. He gave me a heads up. It was about 6 months before, that he knew that he was going to have to get rid of me. And he's like, Joe, eventually I'm going to have to fire you. And I'm like, I know. I couldn't figure out the formula. I was like, yeah. And I wasn't, and I was trying to find my next thing. And one day he called me up and he's like, we need to meet in Newark. And I'm like, are you firing me? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. But, and then I went back to Get Well Network to manage all the clients that I just sold for years. And then I got exposed to Greencastle, as a Get Well Network. I'd sold a system to Christiana Healthcare, and Steve Hess, the CIO there, was like a high-speed individual, and he was not happy with the way the implementation was going. So he's like, don't worry about it, Joe. I'll call in my military guys. They'll take care of it. But it's like, I'm military. What are you talking about? And so Greencastle came in, fixed the implementation. It went off without a hitch. I was like, I got to get to know these guys. And so that was 2009. And then came up here, interviewed with them, and for 3 years we went back and forth.
Oh, interesting.
They didn't have a spot for me, or I wasn't ready to jump ship. And so just every quarter or so I'd meet with one of the partners and have lunch and check in. And finally it got to the point where it all made sense. And I came over, like you said earlier, as the director of client engagement.
Yeah. Okay. And so let's back up. I mean, like we just kind of glossed over about 10 years there, I think. you know, in that time, I think that there's probably some things that you took away from the military that probably really helped you. And then maybe there were some things even that didn't help you.
Yeah.
As you reflect on that, like, what would you say you could put in each of those categories?
Things that obviously really help is just showing up and being like prepared. Like if your true movements at noon, you're there, you're ready to go. It's not like, okay, now I got to go get my stuff, and can we stop and get a snack? No, that was one of the things is once if they say the day started at 9, you're there, you're ready to go, and you do your prep work beforehand. So that was huge. Thing that didn't really play well. I was notorious just for being way early to everything. It was just,
and that didn't help.
No, because in the civilian community, people look at that like if that starts at 4 and you're there at 3:30, they're like, "What the heck? Yeah." And but it's funny because you go to a lot of these veteran events and it says it starts at 4, and the vast majority of people are showing up at 3:30. It's just ingrained in someone. You just show up early or late, and so that's still a hard habit to break. But the other thing I think is just you learn so much about leadership and managing people.
Yeah.
Specifically in BUDS, but through the Naval Academy and just being a platoon commander and that kind of stuff. And so you just learn that how to manage situations and people, and that's always a continuing process. I think I would say personally, I'm a better leader and manager now than I ever was, just because when you have a company of 135 veterans, they hold you to a much higher standard. I remember than because some of these guys served under some great military leaders, and it's like, how do you live up to that level of expectation?
Well, that kind of goes back to like what we said at the beginning there, right? Like you are the average of who you surround yourself with. And also, I mean, I think that another really cool thing that at least personally I've found in the entrepreneur journey, right, is like you don't do the journey for the end. It's not like because I want to accomplish it's who you become in the process. And like that to me is much more powerful than it's like after just some goal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Greencastle. I mean, this is a cool organization. You obviously, like you said, you build fun into it. I've met a few of the people that work here, which helped me, meet you.
Yeah.
And I've been impressed with, the way that they've been about delivering value a lot of times for asking nothing in return. I'm curious, how did you help build that sort of a culture, and what helped you? What helped develop that in you to even want to build that sort of a culture?
Yeah, I think a couple of key books that I read that resonated with the way I wanted to lead. One is called The Go-Giver, and that's just it's a good fable. It's short. It's easy read. It was perfect for me to be able to kind of comprehend the concept of just provide value without looking for anything in return. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to it, but that's kind of the gist of it. And then the other thing that was, I think, transformational for me personally was reading Traction by
Gino Wickman.
Yeah, Gino Wickman. And when I read it, it was just kind of like, yeah, this makes sense. But the thing that really made me change a lot of the ways that I did stuff was the delegate and elevate, right? We wouldn't be a $30 million company with 135 people if I didn't let go and let people do their jobs, right? And so that's what happens, I think, with lifestyle businesses is that the owner doesn't want to let go of certain things, and that's fine. But they'll never, get them above a certain level. And again, it's a lifestyle business, so they're happy with it. But once you get comfortable creating new leaders, and I think personally that's what I've kind of morphed Greencastle into is are we doing great projects for big companies? Yeah, but also we're creating leaders. And by creating new leaders, I would be robbing them of valuable experience if I continue to do it myself.
Absolutely.
And somewhere in my career, either somebody was generous enough to let me try something new, or they were incompetent and I did something anyways, and I learned. And if I didn't allow that to happen here, we would still be 50 people, 25 people doing some good stuff, but just not, we would have high attrition. I mean, we haven't, out of the last year, we've only had 4 months where we've lost somebody.
Wow.
So we've had 8 months of zero attrition. So it's
amazing.
And that it's, I think that's attributable to, good pay, good job, but also just people feeling valued.
Mm. Yeah, no, I get that. And, it's funny that you just brought that up, that we've actually touched on this in a lot of our different episodes of like the mark of a leader is creating more leaders. And I love that you're embodying that in this company.
Oh, yeah.
It's really cool. So in this company, and you can correct me on this one, but I think it's entirely veterans, right?
Yeah, Greencastle is 100% veteran.
So what is it about veterans that you think is so valuable that is something you've stayed so true to?
The thing that I think it's nothing they're going to see in their work with major utilities, Exelon, PECO, PPL, is going to rattle them more than anything they saw in the military. Sure, right? So
yeah,
and I couldn't tell you the exact number, but I'm sure the vast majority of them are all combat veterans. And we always, it's kind of a joke, but it's true, is nobody's going to die.
Mm.
So let's just take it down a notch. It's not that serious. But to our clients, it is very serious.
Yeah.
Because this might be the most chaotic thing they've ever dealt with, where I can just going through buds, it was like Monday morning was like chaos central. It's like you show up and it would be like, all right, what am I getting my ass beat for today?
Yeah.
Oh, so-and-so was on the roof of the barracks. Okay, great. How many push-ups do I, it was just, you just dealt with the chaos, and you were I got very comfortable just walking into a situation with no prior knowledge and just being like, I can figure this out. And I think that's the vast majority of veterans is they're put into those situations at different levels. That's kind of what we do here. It's like, hey, you've been assigned to the such and such project. And they get in there and it's a shit show. Yeah, it's a dumpster fire, and they take a deep breath and they go, okay, and they just start sorting it out.
Yeah,
and that's what the clients need.
Right. Yes. So I think that if I were to boil that down to, I guess, maybe terms that at least I've heard is like one, crisis management. I think that veterans are great at crisis management. And then the other one is resourcefulness.
Yeah.
I think that something that I've seen since I've been out, the people that are most successful that I've seen again here are the ones who can remain resourceful. And a lot of that's a resourceful state.
Yeah.
Which is like being calm in the storm.
Yeah.
But the ones who are resourceful are the ones ultimately who prevail. So as now the owner of a consulting firm, what do you see as being the most successful attributes that help when you come into a dumpster fire?
Yeah. It's kind of like triage. I can imagine like when a combat medic rolls up to a situation, first thing is like stop the bleeding, right?
Right.
And so that's exactly, the most important thing is let's just stop the problem. And the other thing is we talk about creating systems for improvement. So think of let's just say running Greencastle. For a while there, it was a roller coaster. We had our highs and our lows, and one of the goals that I had set out is let's flatten that roller coaster. It doesn't need to be this emotional roller coaster, because the only reason why we were seeing those roller coaster rides was because certain individuals were creating a crisis so they could sweep in and solve it. And so they were what I would call, the professional arsonist and firefighter combo. And as soon as we realized that and made some changes, it started to flatten out, because there's no reason for us to have a conversation on Saturday morning.
Right.
No reason.
Right.
And unless one of the employees potentially or their family is involved in something tragic, right? And that's happened where we've had those calls, but nothing should be discussed. Not nothing. Very little should be discussed after hours. It's like we're not in a DoD contracting entity where we got to send people to ships to go do whatever. So it's like, let's level out that by creating systems, by creating expectations, behaviors, all sorts of things. And famously, within Greencastle, I have this concept called the watch, which is, take a fancy watch, and you pull the back off, and you have all these gears and everything.
Right. Yeah.
And over the last 6 years, we've built that watch out, and we'll continue to build it out. But my job as a CEO is to sit there and look at all the gears and do nothing if it's working. Because if I've created the right systems, the right expectations, the right goals, held people accountable, put the right people in the right job, you should let them go, right? And when the gear starts to not work right, or it starts to get gummed up, that's when you start to enact, all right, what do we got to do different? Is it a person problem? Is it a system problem? Is it a process problem? Is it a people problem? So,
Yeah. Okay. And I've seen that big diagram that y'all have in the back over there for.
Yeah. That's our process for helping clients go through that process.
That's cool. Wait. Did you come up with that yourself, or was that something?
No, that's been around probably, I'd have to imagine, since the 90s. Then the 80s since Greencastle started. It's just the thoughtful combination of project management, change management, and process improvement.
Right.
Each one is a discipline in itself, but you can't really do a large, complex project without change management or process improvement. And and so we took it, and over the years we've massaged it into what we call the implementation management methodology.
That's cool. I want to back up a little bit here, just in the interest of time. There's a couple of things I want to cover. One, I get that, like. And I love your mindset on it. But in the transition period, I think that there's something when we're going through it that we think is the most important thing at that time. What was that one thing for you as you were going through the transition?
So long ago. And for me, it was, I was mentally focused in on like my physical well-being, just because I was, again, on crutches and cancer surgery, and I was getting out of the military, that kind of stuff. So for me, it was just find a job, any job. That's why I took the job at Pfizer. I mean, I had a lot of fun at Pfizer. It paid well, and a lot of great people, but it just was, you're a glorified UPS person. And but built up, I think, I'll give Pfizer a ton of credit for creating the fundamentals of selling that they did, because it was all relationship-based selling, and it was all about providing value. And I mean, just with that territory, we took it from the bottom to the top in 2 years, I think it was. And so it was just one of those things that you just, when you're getting out, everybody has a different priority. My biggest thing is when I talk to veterans now getting out, they have a lot of tools. If you can use a Skill Bridge program, use it. But the biggest decision, I think, that I try to help veterans realize is, are you looking for a job, or are you looking for a career?
Yeah.
Because a job is, you show up 9 to 5, you have no real responsibilities, you're going to get a good paycheck, and you're just going to kind of be there. A career is, you're going to have to hustle. Yeah. And you're going to have to stay late. You're going to have to show up to the office. You're going to have to do all these things that are going to get you noticed by leadership and get you more responsibility. And then you're going to move up the ladder. And I think some people think that if you just do a job, you can do that. And I don't think you can live in both worlds. You got to either, hey, I'm just here to get a paycheck. I'm going to be your best B player on the planet. I'll show up early. I'll show up on time, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not looking to be the CEO. Right. And that's awesome. If a person is so self-aware that they could do that. And then the other side is you get the guys and gals that are willing to stay 2 hours later to get something done. And you need those people as well.
Yeah. All right. You were touching on a career versus a job.
Yeah.
And I totally resonate with this. I think that's something that's very interesting, that when people get out is that they're usually focused on just that, I need, like you said, I need something to pay the bills.
Yeah.
But the hard thing is you're trying to replace a way of being with a job. And I think the funniest metaphor I've ever heard on this is like, no one gets a 7-Eleven tattoo.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody probably does, but you get the point.
Yeah, no, I think you lose a lot of sense of purpose when you get out of the military. So that's where I think the not-for-profits can help. Is like you can get that sense of service or serving something bigger than yourself by helping a not-for-profit.
Right.
But you're not going to. The vast majority of people, veterans, aren't going to get it through their job.
Right. Yes, I completely agree. So looking back now, what, 20 years now, or more since you got out, what do you think actually was the most important thing for you to have maybe taken care of? Maybe you took care of it and didn't even think about it, but as you reflect, what was actually the most important thing to take care of on your transition?
That's a tough question because the financial is always a huge thing. I'm sure the inner dynamics between you and your wife and all that kind of stuff. I would say for me, it's finding that path of success, right? It took me 20 years to get to Greencastle to buy it. Could I have done it when I was 33? No. I had to go through that process, and I had to get fired from GE. I had to do these other things, and so I think it's two things. I think veterans, anybody really, has to take charge of the career, because when you're in the military, they tell you, okay, you're going to go here, you're going to go there. You have some say, are you going to choose Okinawa or San Diego, but you know what your next job's going to be, and,
Right.
and they're going to tell you what it is. And so that's the thing here in the outside the military is nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
And there's not a career path that you can follow and say, I'm here and I want to move up. It's you have to be very opportunistic in a good way. Like I believe luck is the combination of being prepared for it, but also being in the right place, right? So think of return to work, right? It could be said that some people are being promoted because they're lucky.
Sure.
It's probably because they set the conditions for that luck to be in the office around leadership, or they're doing certain things that get themselves noticed by leadership. The person that sits at home and doesn't take the effort to reach out and to set up time with leadership or to engage anybody and just does their job, that's okay.
Right.
But you have to realize that those opportunities, you're not even being exposed to them because of your actions. And so, so yeah, there's a lot of luck, but it's also you as an individual, you play a huge part in creating that luck.
I completely agree. So someone's getting out right now. What would be the one bit of advice that you would give them and or their family, loved ones? Yeah. Like as they're getting out to help them be successful?
Take advantage of the Skill Bridge program if you can. That's one of the more successful programs out there. But I think, again, just do you want a job or do you want a career? And because that'll be the dynamic with your wife and your family is if it's a job, you'll be at the softball games and the birthday parties and that kind of stuff. If you're shooting for a career, you're going to miss some of those because that's the hustle that's required to grow a successful career. And then I'd say the other thing is be honest and truthful with yourself about what you can actually do when you get out of the military. A lot of senior officers or even senior enlisted are like, oh, I want to be the CEO or COO of a company. It's like you might have managed materials and people and that kind of stuff, but the biggest difference between anything you've done in the military and the civilian world is if you're joining a for-profit company, you got to make money.
Yeah.
And you have no skill set in that. Now, can you transfer your skill set to do that? Yes. But 20-year career in the military, you've never sold anything. You've never had to raise money for an organization. And so I also tell transitioning veterans that as well as I say, listen, find out how the company you're joining makes money and help them do more of that, and you become indispensable.
Oh, interesting.
And because that's people join Greencastle, and it's about deep relationships and delivering high quality products to the client, but it's also how do we make money? Well, we make money by more projects, and you want a little bit of longevity, you want a little bit of job security. Help us do that, and everybody will be successful.
I love how simple you made that too. So it sounds to me like one, being clear on your values is a great place to start, because then you can know if you want a job or a career.
Right? Well, and also important to you, you'll know what kind of company you want to join.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
So it's important. I mean, there's companies out there that are borderline unethical, and if you're okay with that, it's okay. Then go do that. But if you start to see that at your job, don't tolerate it.
Yeah.
You'll have to jump ship and do something else.
Absolutely.
And you got to be comfortable with that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, two more things. One, what's your favorite book?
Right now, I'd say favorite book is probably The Go-Giver, or I'm going to I think it's Getting Naked by Patrick Lencioni.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think it's Getting Naked, but be careful Googling that one. But it's a nice fable on the difference between a large consulting firm and a small consulting firm. And it resonates really well with Greencastle.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Cool. And then do you have a favorite podcast?
I really, I should say Shots from the Winchester, but I like the snippets of all of them. Again, I don't look forward to any particular podcast coming out on a particular schedule. It just they all have snippets of good information.
Yeah,
not all of them, but I mean, not all of them. Typical like Joe Rogan, and there's a couple others that I don't even know the names of, but I know it comes across my feed.
Yeah, we'll drop all of that in the show notes.
And the prize is awesome. I watched the prize, all 7 episodes so far.
Right. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time. Thank you all for stopping by and joining us today. As always, you know the drill. Please like and subscribe. If you have any sort of comments, feedback, I know we've changed up a lot, cameras, people we've had on, questions we've asked. We're doing that because of the feedback that we've gotten from all of you. So please continue to do that. And, we'll put links to how can people get a hold of you?
They can go to greencastleconsulting.com. We have a page there, leadership, and I think all my contact information is there. You can always reach out via LinkedIn, but that's a little bit more hit and miss.
Yeah, that's dicey.
I've been ignoring that a lot more lately.
I completely understand that. Well, cool. Thank you all for stopping by. We'll see you next time.